about dealing with these guys that end up being pimps, if they would just get into a 12-step program and hopefully get saved. Because once you get saved, one thing I noticed, and I've learned this 6 weeks ago at church, I was complaining. I'm like, I'm still doing a lot of the bad behaviors I used to do before I got saved. Some of them, not as much. But the difference is it hurts a lot more. I feel it. I notice it. And it's like this onion layer of stuff coming off. I didn't notice I was doing it all. And when those layers are there, they build and build and build. And suddenly you're ending up trafficking children and you think it's okay. Now, I'm not. I'm just saying I've never, obviously. And I tend to agree with your solution in the short term. But there I go, but for the grace of God. And that is not a Christian point of view. We're there to forgive. And we are all equal in sin. And so if we are able to join with each other and get with these companies that make these routers, for example, and have them install the basic blocking software so it's easy for a parent to just click and say, yeah, I want to turn that on. I want to turn that DNS filter on. That's what it's called, DNS filtering. It would be trivial. You should be able to do it on every one of these phones. You shouldn't have to be tracked with your phone to have your kids protected on your phones. But you do. But there are other ways of doing it. Quad 9, 9.9.9 is a DNS filter that can block a lot of that stuff. You go and Google around for DNS filtering for porn, and you'll find some stuff that you can easily modify your phone's access and your kids' phone's access to block them from it. And this starts, look, when I was 9 years old, we were all in 1979 stealing dad's Playboy, and guess where that leads? Right? And then it got really normalized by the time I was 15, 16 years old. Everybody's looking at this stuff. Everybody's treating women like that. And women are like, oh, well, I guess I have to live up to that. You know, and it just feeds itself. And you end up with Ally McBeal being a normalization, sort of grooming software for people to get programmed into self-destructive behavior that ruins relationships. Okay? And then I want to throw this in there. I just ran across this. I was just listening to this on the way up. You know, Israel is in the forefront right now. And we have multiple times when they lost Israel and were thrown out. And why did they lose it? Because they weren't obeying God, right? And one of the things they were doing was worshiping other gods, like the Canaanites' God. And guess what the Canaanite God demands? Child sacrifice. So that ties right in. And there's still undercurrent in these underbellies of religions around the world of that going on. And the easiest one that you can research is about Canaanites. And it directly impacts Christianity because our root is Abrahamic. So I would suggest ACA for these kids and adults that are recovering from childhood trauma. Okay, there are 12-step programs for sex addicts. I think one of them is called SLAA. I don't remember, but it's not my thing. Thank goodness. But I did poke around to see what was there. And no, you don't have to quit drinking wine to go to ACA. It's not Alcoholics Anonymous. It's okay. That's a different program. So, and you know, being saved helps, or following a faith helps, and creating groups. But I think the biggest thing is getting these platforms. These things are routers. And if you can block it at this level, you can protect millions of people from it. And you don't need to install spyware like age verification software, which is a way to undermine the internet so they can spy on you. And it does nothing to prevent the problem, because I can circumvent age verification all day long. Just block the access. Just block it at the source. There you go.
Give him a big round of applause. Great to meet you, Bo. Great to meet you. Fantastic. Yes, ma'am.
When my son was probably 14, 15, somebody online was trying to get to go to Ireland. And thankfully, there was no way for him to get a passport to that. But he's on the spectrum, right? So this is where we're going, and this is where they're talking about the whole autism thing, because they're creating these vulnerable kids. And I like what one of the parents, I was in a group of parents whose children had got sucked into a transgender cult, as she called it, and someone I know that was in the middle of it even called it that and just kept doing it. So, but she said to take an axe to all your kids' electronics Yeah, I mean, they should just make everything illegal, like all this, I mean, all that stuff, but
It is illegal and there's no enforcement, you know, in a lot of areas. There's so many things that are illegal and there's no enforcement. Right. And that's because we've put political leaders, we've abdicated our responsibility, our civic duty as citizens of this country to someone else. And those someone else's have metastasized into a cancer on this country.
this is why my belief is that what we're still going through in my house, it's way better than it was, but this is so much bigger than us, right? And so God, and I've been listening to most of the He's going to show up and
Amen.
rid of this cancer.
Amen.
And
It's happening.
there's going to be a lot, but it's just going to happen because if we had to litigate and legislate our way through this,
Not going to happen.
so.
We have to take it back by force. Yeah. Let me tell you again, from our perspective, and I asked this yesterday, how many of you own businesses? Okay, about, half of the room. That is the most powerful place that we can start. And all of you shop at businesses, right? Stop shopping at Amazon, right? You're giving literally money to the devil, in my opinion. Sorry, that's on, yeah. But you find local people because that is how we remain free. And it's not being talked about near enough, because you look at what happened in 2020. Talk about grooming. 2020, what did we get called as small business owners?
Non-essential.
Hey, good. Non-essential. Are you kidding me? Non-essential? We're $17 trillion of this country's GDP. We're
You
six.
just made a great point.
What?
Unless you were a,
Of course. Yeah. All of the sin, the sin stocks are mad. Yeah. It went through the roof. But my point being is that was an attack that I saw that nobody was talking about at the time, because decentralized finance is the way that we stay free. Every empire has fallen when the dictator at the top starts to go in and overburden and say, you owe me more gold and I need more of your cattle and I need more of your blah, blah, blah for my castle, right? That I'm not earning that money for. It happens in every single empire. And so we're fighting back on that front with something called the Owner Syndicate, where we're building basically a union for all small businesses so they can never say that again. We're putting together our own Bill of Rights. It's a $2 billion project that we're working on right now so that we have our own PAC, so that we put our own people, not Republican, not Democrat, people that say yes to the things that we have on our own platform.
They're creating these autistic kids.
Sure.
The medical system, through the food, through the environment, through everything, and they're creating them on purpose. I mean, that's just how I see it. But so, yeah, like the grocery store, like I've been finding farmers markets and everything else.
Good. That's the way that you're going to combat this. Stop giving them the bullets to put in the gun to shoot us with, right? It's our dollars. Where do we put our dollars? Collectively, there's, 100 people here. If we all changed our shopping habits and we went local, and yes, it costs a little bit more money, but are we buying things that we don't need, right? Or is there ways that we can sacrifice to pay another $2 for shopping at somebody local? Like, this is the fight. And I think that this is the only way that we win the battle that we're actually in without bullets and blood, is through the financial, organization of this country. Yes, ma'am.
yep. And I think I got your question, which is, will we speak more to the preventative side, the prevention side? Yeah, 2 teenagers, both on the spectrum, want to learn more. Yep, and apps. So, I think, Set Me Free Project is such a great organization. If you haven't heard of them yet, I cannot remember where they're based out of. It doesn't matter because they work all over the country.
Yeah,
but they build curriculums so that they can teach educators. And I think there's a lot of fruitful content in there for parents. And so I would reach out to them because I think that's where you're going to get like the bread and butter of what you can learn on from everything from what to look for to apps, going on apps, things like that.
There's a whole section on people that are on the spectrum as well. So really
Yeah.
great organization.
Yeah. And then they might be at the Safe House Project if anyone's available next weekend. I mean, there's beliefs of bringing organizations together in the anti-trafficking Safe House projects in Charlotte next week. The 12th and 13th. That's not even the weekend. I don't know what day it is, but yeah. And I think the vulnerability that comes with autism and things like that is in line with the vulnerability that a lot of preteens and teenagers and even children have, which they are being told by society, their friends, their educators, that we have no control over the ideologies educators bring into schools anymore. Their friends who are being trained by parents who have no oversight, like you had just said, they have no oversight over their children. And so all of those things are impacting your kids. And so when you have kids that are suffering from different things that all can leave them vulnerable and exposed to identity issues, then I think that's where, as parents, we can stand in front of our children and say, I'm the shield that's going to protect them. And I'm going to start by reminding them every single morning how loved they are, their identity in Christ, and that they can be bold because they're going to be bullied. And I think there's going to be a lot of challenges that they can face in school. And that seems to chip away at self-esteem. And then when they feel that way, suddenly, like the example we saw in the video yesterday, a girl joins an art class, which was really a cover for gender ideology. And so she's learning that she might not be a she anymore because she wants, everyone's telling her, no, feel empowered in that. And you know what? What I love about children and teenagers is that they have such a heart for helping their fellow, children and teens, that they think the best route is to say, yeah, you do. If you feel like a boy, I'm going to support you and I'm going to help you become a boy. That's what they're being told is the right thing. And as a parent, you have an opportunity to say, I love you so much that I'm not going to let you fall for that trick. I'm going to teach you and show you time and time again how loved you are and why the Lord didn't make a mistake in how you were born and what that means and how you could change the world with how you feel. And let's talk about why you don't feel great in your skin right now, because that's a very normal thing in adolescence. Nobody feels comfortable, So I think there's ways that on that side, you can be that shield for them. And it sounds like you already are, which is pretty amazing. And then maybe having conversations with the parents of their close friends and maybe educating their parents and saying, here's the protection that I'm putting me in that fight or you're not. And maybe it's, setting some boundaries like that might be helpful. And then nutritional foods seems to be really effective in children who are suffering from autism, because it's it's even hard to say suffering because there's autism is so brilliant and they are some of the most intelligent people, and that can flourish even more with the right nutrition, right? So eliminating dyes and things like that. So getting into the schools and saying, hey, I don't want red dye 40 in my kids' food anymore, because it hurts people with ADHD and autism. So I think there's a nutritional component to it for sure, which you already know. You're a good mom. I can already tell.
How long do we have? Oh, so I thought we had, I don't want to go over. Did you? 5 minutes? Or is this you raising your hand? Oh, because you were my timekeeper yesterday. So yes, what's your question? No, you're good. What's your question?
So ever since Helene,
Up to your mouth. There you go.
that close? Yeah. That feels obscene. So ever since Helene, I've discovered, oh my gosh, I don't like doing this. Ever since Helene, some of us realized we probably deal with PTSD on a level that I never know how I'm going to react to something. So I have to do something that I know I have to do it. Someone I worked with and their husband, I'm going to preface this by saying the husband is from New Hampshire, so that should tell you a little bit. And they just had a baby, and they are posting
Go there, look at their, where you can connect into the Safe House Project online. You can report to them anything, and it goes to the right people, and it gets addressed, and you get responses, and it goes into the organization who has raised the money and is doing the work. So that's one way of doing it. The other way is just DMing somebody, right? And saying, hey, I care. Like this is what's happening. I'm part of Awake and Bold, and these are the things that we do. Just be careful what you're doing with your child. And they'll either block you. What's the worst thing that could happen, right? That's kind of how I live my life. What's the worst thing that could happen? And then if you're not afraid of that, like Bo was saying, he's not, if we were playing rugby together, he's not afraid. Well, there's no reason to be afraid, right? If you are the strongest, in sports, the meanest, right? Then there's nothing to fear. So I think that those are the two ways that you would approach it. Go to there's so many of these organizations,
Are
but
they
the Safe
doing-
House Project.
I'm sorry, are they going to do it like a 311 number or something?
Yes, yes.
I tried to do
it's
that when I got involved.
brilliant.
There
It's
was no
brilliant.
success.
And they need help right now because they're going up against a corrupt, the people that got the contract on the hotline. But just check into it. You'll love it. Yeah. One more question. Yes. There's a microphone.
Thanks. It touches on a couple things. I was in the occult until I was a teenager, got saved supernaturally. I didn't even know who Jesus was. And because of that, over the years and becoming a mom and being on the mission field, there was so much fear of keeping my children from those things. Disney movies, any of it. It was so black and white for me.
Right.
Later on, they were like, oh, they totally rebelled to have those things. And I've talked with, so I have grandchildren now, and I love that I have good communication with my children. They're still very respectful to share. What I would encourage, and this is what we keep hearing, is damn the fear.
Mhm.
And that if we can see how powerful our God is and the joy that he has to put down, to recognize how the demonic is already defeated.
Mm.
And so that we have to walk in power and light and life and love, that all
Amen.
this has come. So I just want to encourage, thank you for being both sides of the picture.
Mhm.
But if we can realize how empowered he's made us,
Amen.
Messiah in us, the hope of glory, who raised Yeshua from the dead,
Amen.
dwells in us if you've received him. What an
Amen.
awesome.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. So in our organization, then we're going to wrap this up. And you've got other great speakers going today. But in the CERT Ministries organization, we get told a lot before we go out on these missions. There's signals for us. It's like when you see the word pray, that means that we're on our way to go get a child, right? When you see Princess Rescued, that means that we were able to retrieve that little girl, that little boy, or that group. And we get told a lot before we go on these missions to be careful, right? And in the Bible, it says what? Be careful for nothing. Be careful for nothing. And so we have the phrase, stay dangerous. Being a safe individual in a dangerous world does nothing, right? Whatever and everybody in here, not women, men, older, younger, I don't really care. There is a dangerous person inside of you. And that danger is meant to stand up for the vulnerable and the weak. You are in these chairs and given the tools that you've been given to be strong, not for yourself anymore, but for other people who need you. The pain that you've gone through, the sadness, the abuse, the things that you've gone through in your own life were meant to make you strong for moments like this. That you're so strong. This is one of the things that I love to get people to wake up to, is that you are a force of nature. By the fact that you are breathing air, that you're here, that you're wondering, what can I do to help? Right? You are powerful beyond belief. Don't forget that, and be powerful, be amazing, and please, for the love of God, stay dangerous. You have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, you should have ended on that because I'm gonna tamper it down. But I would just encourage anyone, if you've been here yesterday and for the rest of the day today, try to identify maybe the areas that you can be the leader in. So, I think there's men in here that may be called to start small groups with other men who may be leading Bible studies, or it's just, hey, we're going to get to go together over coffee and we're going to just share. And you're going to be able to broach some really tough subjects that they never get asked about. And so you're going to be the leaders that allow them to open up in weaknesses or vulnerable ways, that things that they're struggling with, and women too. And I think that was the best way to close. So thank you for that. That was a prayer over this group here, and it was a gift for us and for me. And there's a line in Chronicles of Narnia, not biblical, but kind of biblical. And he says, he's talking about Aslan, but basically, my God is good, but he's not safe. And I think that's the power.
Chair with the cushion and you're uncomfortable, please feel free to grab a chair. We didn't know that they were comfortable. And can I say one more thing? I just want everybody to check the Wake and Bold website in about a week, because we're going to have a link to a documentary about grooming in schools that we just discovered.
All right, we've got Kathy O'Brien. I know a lot of you probably still have questions from yesterday, so she's going to come up, and I think we'll get the other microphone. Yeah. Oh, you're going to take
pedophilia is just a sexual preference. It is not. It is an erosion of our humanity. It's an erosion of our intelligence. It's an erosion of our procreation, our human procreation, our natural process, and our ability to align with the divine within and live life the way that it was intended to be. So you get this generational aspect because people have been ignorant as to our own mind-brain function. We need education to remind people what happens when trauma occurs, what happens to a child, what happens when they're abused. And since it's going to take us a while to get that education back into the system, from my point of view, we need some harsh penalties for these people who are continuing this activity, who are perpetuating it. Because if we had some justice in our system, then people would realize there's accountability for actions. If there's harsh penalties, like they're talking about the death penalty for people who rape and traffic children, then that will inspire those who have been conditioned for generations to just say, why so harsh? And look into it and find out. Maybe it's a way we can start re-educating ourselves. Maybe it's a way to break the chain fast. Maybe it's a way that we can all be empowered, but we've got to see that justice. We need to get active in our local communities and start being that change right there, because it's going to take a while for this corrupt system to clean up. I'm so happy to hear that there's different hotlines that are coming into effect now and based on state levels and county levels and everything else, because that national hotline has been deliberately created from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children to perpetuate child sex trafficking, to perpetuate the pedophile agenda, to bring the children who are being trafficked, to keep them in the system through the corrupted Child Protective Services system. So having experienced all that, witnessed it and seen it, we've got such a mess. But when we start cleaning it up locally and opening our eyes and seeing what we can do to reach out to those that we love and let them know they need to protect their children, it's all love. We can use our voices. We can use that love to open ears and start educating each other as to what it is we can do. I stand strong by what America's Future and Mary Flynn O'Neill's Defend and Protect Children's Project has been promoting, and that's local action has national impact. And that means it's up to us. We can make all the difference. We, the people, it's our Constitution. We can restore the freedom and justice for all. And it begins with us. It begins in our own home, educating our children, arming them with the truth that they need. And we've got an opportunity in front of us to break the chain. Once we break the chain, we break the supply and demand of the pornography, the perversion, the whole thing. And we have the power to do that and be that and not have to wait on somebody else to do it for us. So I've got so many different directions that I would love to speak about further, but ultimately I wanted to open this up to questions and anything that you have to ask. This is exciting.
We spoke last night, and I had a question for you, which I think anyone who picked up her book and you read the book, you will probably have the same question. But I said, I read your book in 1996, and I hadn't pulled it off the shelf since. But wasn't there a man in there who wrote a song? His name is Lee Greenwood, and it was not very good about Lee, what you wrote. And what is Trump doing using his song, God Bless the USA, as the opener? You have the same question. So would you like to comment on that, please?
Yes, thank you for asking that. I've been asked that so many times since God Bless the USA has become such a part of President Trump's campaign. And Lee Greenwood was so heavily involved in Clinton cocaine operations and absolute perversion and abuse, aware of MK Ultra mind control and other aspects. Did Lee Greenwood find another piece of the puzzle in his own life? Did he find, did he align with his divine within? Did he find an answer? I don't know. It's not for me to judge. But when I look at the song itself, this is the knowledge that I have on God Bless the USA. I love that song. It's so beautiful. It really is a good song. And I know that it was written back in 1984 because George Bush was running Reagan's administration. I touched on that yesterday, that Reagan was not cooperating with the New World Order. And so they were going to assassinate him, and George Bush would be taking over the presidency. Well, the assassination didn't work. Reagan survived it, but the trauma was so severe, they were able to take control of his mind. They maintained control of his administration. George Bush and Dick Cheney ran Reagan's administration. They needed to have him in for one more term. And they wanted to make sure that he got in because he was a great mouthpiece. The people loved Reagan, and they were able to sell our country out to globalism, to sell our education out to indoctrination of children, to especially impose the pedophile agenda across the nation. And what happened during Reagan's administration is detailed in my testimony, Transformation of America. It was absolutely horrific. But what would Reagan have chose for himself? I don't know. And I know that President Trump is acutely aware of MK Ultra mind control, how far-reaching it is, how much it's gone into various presidencies and global leaders. And I strongly believe that he has the knowledge that I do, that God Bless the USA was assigned to Lee Greenwood to write that song to make sure that Reagan was reelected. So it was ultimately written for him. It was to create a patriotic illusion over here. And the harmonics that were used in that song were the highest vibrational quality that they had available, so that it would embed into the minds of the people. And so what Lee Greenwood did with that song was make sure that Ronald Reagan was elected, and he was granted that because of his involvement in Clinton cocaine operations. So he got the money from it, but it doesn't make the song bad. And ultimately, it was all about, God bless the USA. I mean, it's still a beautiful song. So I really think that the complexities surrounding that song are something that President Trump is aware of. And I'm not making a judgment on Lee Greenwood, because anybody who has a soul could turn. It's those that aren't like us and do not like us, the ones who are so absolutely soulless, that, the Clintons and George Bush Sr. and a few others that I've known. That's a completely different thing. But aside from that, I guess the song is there for us to enjoy. Can we do a microphone because I'm half deaf. Thank you so much. Do you want me to?
Hi.
Okay.
Do you think that what happened with the mind control and the assassination attempt on President Reagan had anything to do with their ability did they give him Alzheimer's? Could they have that mental ability scientific ability to do that?
Since Alzheimer's is about forgetting and mind control is an inability to think, to bring things to mind, the parallels are already right there. It may have just been the effects of mind control in that he hadn't been able to heal from. that they just called Alzheimer's. It could be that. I've wondered that myself, if that was if that was what that was really all about.
Could you talk a little bit more about, I think you touched on it a little bit yesterday, what we've been seeing with the Epstein files and the unwillingness at first to release them. And then they've been released, and then all these other events happen to take them out of the news, particularly right now, Iran. A number of years ago, obviously the files weren't released, but Ukraine. You hear in the background sometimes there are other ulterior motives for why these wars are taking place. But many of us are still very concerned about the Epstein files and what they revealed, not only about sex trafficking or cloning or whatever, but also the whole financial makeup of how the world works and what Epstein's real role was. And I voted for President Trump. I'm behind him, not thrilled about the war, but I'm wondering, why is there not more action being taken? Like, I don't see that anybody's ever going to get arrested or prosecuted. Same thing with COVID. You know, Fauci's living his life. Nobody is going to ever pay for what they're doing to us. So it's a lot of stuff, but.
It is a lot of stuff. And you mentioned so many good points about the Epstein files and how far reaching it is. And that's something that the average person is not ready to even wrap their minds around at this point, because it's so detailed and people are ready with snap judgment right now. And I have been so concerned that if those files were just released, it's going to release the names of the victims, the victimizers, and the whistleblowers all in one list with nobody differentiating who's who and what's what. There was a time when I was used in MK Ultra, I would have been on that list on that plane. I would have been used in that capacity. You know, there was a time when Mark Phillips, who saw what was happening on the highest levels of intelligence, would have been on that list because he was in those places to see what was going on. And he was outraged, and he made all the difference in the world by taking action against it. You know, so people they're so quick to snap judge, they're not ready for the whole big picture. In addition to that, because it's so far reaching, what we have in the Epstein files is an ability to take that thread and unravel this whole globalist agenda from the financial aspect, from every aspect of it, to be able to take that and begin to unravel it. Instead of using the blackmail to blackmail, you don't play another man's game. At the level that it's taking to unravel this globalist agenda, as deeply rooted as it is, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of intelligence, and not playing their same game. We have to rise above it, go over here, and be able to diffuse exactly what it all is, and then expose it as people are more and more able to absorb the information. We're going to be able to evolve with that knowledge instead of be so overwhelmed by it that it would be akin to drinking from a fire hose where we can't even digest it. You know, so we need to be able to fully comprehend and understand it in order to start making the positive necessary changes and being part of that. In the meantime, you know, I've been saying we had the evidence on the Clintons back in the early 90s. Before that even, we've had the evidence to lock them up so much. In 1995, my testimony was that national security was invoked on it. And because it was about the Clintons, and Bill Clinton was president at the time. There's the evidence has been there, but we have no justice system to prosecute them through. Our justice system has been compromised for so long, it's going to take a long time to clean it up. We've got an impossible, you know, just to clean up the FBI alone is, I'd rather scatter them into 1,000 pieces like like Kennedy suggested, because it's just so vastly corrupt. I loved what Kash Patel said about turning the Hoover Building in DC into a deep state museum, because ultimately, you know, that would make more sense than trying to clean up the FBI. And there's so much a part of our justice system. So we've got so many layers and layers and layers to unravel. We've got so many layers to be cleaning up before we can even see justice. So the best thing that we can do right now is educate ourselves as much as possible, understand why child sex trafficking became the most lucrative business in the world, how we got to this point where there's Epstein Islands, where this kind of activity goes on, what's really going on with the genetic manipulation that the Clintons have been involved in since the 80s that I know of. The child harvesting is a horrific reality we all need to face. And every bit of that is something that, as we understand it, we're going to be able to be more effective in protecting our children and cleaning up our own communities and making the difference in our own lives. But ultimately, after 35 years of speaking out on mind control and healing from it, I think I have learned the ultimate patience of waiting for justice. And to me, the ultimate justice is positive change through public awareness. So, you know, I'm not suggesting that we be patient, but we need to keep educating ourselves and making the difference where we possibly can. Yes.
Hey, hello. Okay. Kathy, I have never heard in my life a woman spitting truth like you do ever. Nobody. I mean, you're like number one in the world.
I was exposed to a lot of it.
I've got a two-part question, and the first one is, in your opinion, what do you think of Fort Huachuca, Michael Aquino, who wrote the handbook for mind control for the Army? Do you think TPUSA or maybe Erica Kirk is involved with trafficking kids out of her orphanage in Romania? And the second part of the question is, can you speak a little bit about the luge?
Oh, I think on Turning Point USA, I'm wondering why people aren't looking at Charlie Kirk's children after that trauma. Nobody's paying attention to that one, and I'm very concerned for those children. Erica Kirk, it's not for me to make a judgment, but she has every sign of someone who has endured trauma to the point of heightened suggestibility. And Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino was my MK Ultra mind control programmer, absolute horrific mind manipulator, used Satanism as a trauma base for mind control programming. And his evil, I think, is ultimately worse than that, using psychological warfare to control humanity and erode our humanity, target our children, perpetuate pedophilia, and erode the essence of our being. Mind control is ultimately a spiritual warfare. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino was a leader in eroding that, and wrote the book on mind war with General Vailey, who is on the board of directors at Turning Point USA. When we start putting the pieces together, we start wondering how that got infiltrated to the point where we saw the trauma of the Charlie Kirk assassination. There's a lot of question. Was he really even assassinated? The point is, it traumatized the children, it traumatized the people the way it was intended to, and the psychological warfare tools are right there embedded in Turning Point USA. Having been to a Turning Point event in 2022, and having met Charlie Kirk, having felt the vibration of what those children were doing there, the conservative youth, what their intention was, what could have been from what Charlie Kirk's efforts were, has been diverted and eroded. And yet I'm seeing community groups, I'm seeing state groups where the kids in the high school systems are taking over and saying, okay, well, we're going to continue Charlie Kirk's message and we're going to do it this way. Not paying any attention to the psychological warfare that was weaving through the organization, but kind of organizing it themselves on a local level to take on what the point of it was, to expand thinking beyond the manipulation of the indoctrination in the school systems and by the media to get people to think free. So there's efforts to take a positive from the negative, but we need to pay attention to what happened there and understand this is a kind of infiltration has been going on in our churches, all the sacred institutions that we have, our child protective services, all aspects of society have been infiltrated by this ultimate evil that is psychological warfare intended to keep us from being able to think, to gather that infinite strength of the human spirit and power of love and live our life's purpose in harmony with God's intention. We're all here for such an amazing purpose at this moment in humanity's evolutionary history, and it's up to us to continue to educate ourselves so that we're armed against this assault that is deeply rooted generationally in our society.
Deluge?
I'm not familiar with the term. Oh, well, David Icke is a good friend, but I don't always I don't always see exactly eye to eye or use the same terms, but our intent, our purpose is the same. But so, is there another word for it? Harvesting that. Well, that was kind of what I was talking about yesterday, that that these perpetrators at the top, when you follow the money, it's just a handful of them. And they are using the media, they're using this slow process that they've been putting into our society to make it look like there's more of them than there are. It's why they have so much blackmail, because they're holding people by the blackmail, because there's not really that many willing to do the corrupt activity. So we follow that money to the very, very top, and it's just a handful of these perpetrators who are not like us and do not like us. However we define them, they're vastly different, whether we call them demons or aliens or whatever name we want to put on them. The fact is, they are within our realm to affect, because we have the victory. We got all the power. They only have as much power as we give them or let them steal. They are a low vibration, dark negative energy force that feed off of low vibration, dark negative energy force. So if they keep us in fear, divided, hating, any of that, using trauma after trauma to keep us at a lower vibration, that's what they feed off. When we're aware of that, and we can keep our vibration high by realizing, by going within, aligning with that divine within, gathering that strength of human spirit that they fear so much, and that infinite power of love, we keep our vibrations so high they have nothing to feed off. People ask me, well, aren't you afraid? You're speaking out about the Clintons and everything. And it's like, I am not afraid. They got fear from me the first 30 years of my life in MK Ultra. They're not getting any more. I'm going to keep my focus on helping the children, helping humanity by bringing truth to light, living the love that I am, keeping that vibration so high they can't touch me. So, you know, that's ultimately our victory. They can't feed off of it.
Kathy, thank you. Kathy, thank you for doing everything you're doing for us. When is the last time you saw President Trump alive in person?
That would have been in 2022.
Thank you.
You're amazing. Just really amazing. Thanks for being here to speak to us. Wow. And I love the shout out to David Icke. That was interesting. But a couple of weeks ago, I was dealing with the flu and I was surfing YouTube for free movies, and I ran across Sharky's Machine, which was directed by what's the guy that did Smokey and the Bandit? Burt Reynolds, right? And the reason why I wanted to watch it was set in Atlanta in 1981, 82 timeframe. So you get all these visuals of what the city used to look like back then. And as a commercial realtor, I'm super interested in seeing all that to see the difference between then and now. Well, guess what I ran across? The main part of the movie is dealing with the prostitute. And guess how she was trafficked into it? There's a group of guys that are picking up 12-year-olds in other countries and grooming them into elite prostitution circles. And this movie is set in made in 1981. And obviously this ring was set in Atlanta. It didn't imply an international thing other than they're picking up the girls somewhere else and bringing them into the market and raising them up to be good-looking, buckhead-looking housewife prostitutes, right? But that implies a lot that they made that movie with Burt Reynolds that long ago. And that child trafficking ring is the centerpiece of the plot of the movie. And another thing on the Epstein file, I've had the flight logs on my hard drive for 15 years. I didn't share them because I didn't want to be slapped with, a lawsuit. Because if you're on the flight logs doesn't mean you were doing nasty stuff. It's a good indicator. If there's smoke, there's fire, but I can't make those allegations. And if I got blamed for sharing the file that I got surreptitiously, well, then I'd be bankrupt because they would just sue me into oblivion. But lots of us have been sitting on this file for 10, 15 years. I was following it back when he got locked up in Florida, and I was wondering why Trump hired Acosta as the Department of Labor secretary, who's the guy that handed it back to the county courts from the federal government case. So nobody talks about Acosta at all. When's the last time in these Epstein hearings anybody's ever heard that name mentioned? When's the last time anybody's ever heard, let's get on to Biden for 1 second and I'll be done. You got all these LLCs that his kids and his partners are doing. The names of the LLCs are Rosemont, Thornton, Seneca, and so forth. Well, Rosemont is Teresa Heinz's horse farm near Philadelphia. Guess where John Kerry was doing his campaign speeches in 2003 and 4? Rosemont Farms, just like this kind of a farm. Oh, that's his wife's farm. And that means Chris Heinz, who's Hunter Biden's partner, I wonder why the name Rosemont's there. How about Thornton Partners? Who's Thornton? You ever heard of Whitey Bulger? Yeah? Okay, he's a nice guy from South Boston that everybody wants to know and didn't have anything to do with politics at all in the Democratic Party in South Boston, much less the mob. No, nothing at all to do with that. But his nephew runs a firm based out of Philadelphia that if you and me want to create an LLC and go do business in China, he's the law firm or the fix-it firm that sets up all the bank accounts and LLCs we need to do that business, right? Guess what the name of the firm is? His firm is called Thornton Partners. So I think when we're looking into these rings to rescue these kids, we might want to start looking at those kind of LLCs. And notice how nobody that's talking about Hunter Biden for years and years and years about his Burisma stuff and so on, when's the last time you heard anybody go into Chris Heinz? Well, gee, who are Teresa Heinz's parents? Well, they're based out of Malta and I think Holland, and they're old European aristocracy. All right, there's some carrots for you to go down your rabbit hole with, but and gee, do you think these circles that we're dealing with aren't operating out of those levels? Of course they are. I have a question for you. I thought I had the question and then I got on this rant. Have you noticed social conditioning going on in the media over the last 35 years? And what, so that people are being groomed just by watching television. And what do you think the impact of that is having on the general psyche of American viewers right now? Because that's the gateway that they're using.
Absolutely it is. And there's no question about it. First, I want to say I saw President Trump in 2023. I need to correct that because I was still on the Turning Point USA dates. And the Burt Reynolds thing, dear friend of mine in MK Ultra, Jerry Reed's daughter, Sedina, was in the Smokey and the Bandit movies, and the whole promotion of these horrific trafficking operations has been going on a long time. So you're right, and you're pointing out some really important pieces of the overall puzzle. And ultimately, people have been conditioned by the media. And like I was saying yesterday, it began in earnest with Disney, when Disney came in with Project Paperclip and started using MK Ultra mind control in the children's cartoons to subliminally start promoting the pedophile agenda right from the get-go. So, Disney has been actively involved in conditioning generations because, again, the Project Monarch sub-project of MK Ultra is the multi-generational aspect, and they've been multi-generationally conditioning people so that it becomes inherent for them to accept the pedophile agenda. And it's why more people aren't standing up against the sexualization of children in our school system. It's because they're waking up themselves from their indoctrination that's generational. And again, we got to break that chain. Awareness is key. Truth really
That was my question to you about Annika.
There's so many survivors coming out these days, and we all have different pieces of the puzzle to bring to the table. So many, though, if they're in their healing process and haven't healed from within themselves to absolutely know their own truth, can be easily led astray. If they look outside themselves for answers, they can, they're still highly suggestible, and they can take on whatever the media is throwing at them. And I see that happen a lot with survivors. So it's good. I encourage every survivor to heal from within themselves and then bring their piece of the puzzle to the table, because we all have a different one to bring to the table. If we all have the same piece, it's not going to bring the big picture into view. We need to all have our own individual pieces, and then we're going to be able to see the bigger picture. So I'm real excited about all the survivors coming out, but I also encourage them to heal from within themselves first, so they're absolute in their own truth, and then come forward if they choose to with their information. My own daughter has an amazing piece of the puzzle on the whole child protective services aspect, what happened to her in that system, what happened to her under MK Ultra. She's got her own piece of the puzzle, but she doesn't choose to come forward with it. Instead, she chooses to stand behind me and say, "Go, Mom," and you do it. You go say it. And I'm so proud of her for exactly who she is and what she does, because she makes all the difference in the world in light of her love. And so many people now have met her at different events and seen her, and she lights up a whole room. I mean, she's amazing, but she doesn't choose to speak out. All survivors don't need to choose to speak out. They can need to make the difference right where they are with what they're led to do. And Kelly is led to make a difference with animals, with nature, with the earth, she's just so beautifully attached to all that aspect. And that's an important part for all of us. The animals can teach us back the way to our humanity, the way back to our human nature, the way back to be able to align with the divine and access all aspects of our brain and to make the effective difference in the world. So I hope that somewhat answers your question on Annika, and I'm excited for all the survivors and encourage them to heal from within themselves first.
I won't ask you about Israel today, okay? But I read your book last night, Align with the Divine, and your segue into what you were just saying is about my question. I really loved how you were able to speak with the animals and have that telepathic communication with them. And so I was reading in there about our birthright. And I don't know if this is the appropriate place to bring that up or not, but I would love to learn more about that and hear more about that from you, and how trauma has impacted that for you. And so thank you.
Yeah, the heightened senses, the heightened intuitions, the ability to see into the future, to have a strong sense of vibrational frequency and surroundings, to have that telepathic communication. These are all aspects of our brain that we're not using. We don't have to endure trauma to experience them. What happened with me is that trauma had stopped my capacity for free thought. And without having any conscious thought of my own, my brain accessed the other aspects of my senses. This is what happens with in trauma a lot. The brain compensates for the lack of conscious thought by accessing these other abilities. They're in our brain. We don't have to have the trauma to experience it, but the brain does that the way that a blind person has heightened hearing. You know, we get these amazing miracle compensations for what is taken to be able to replace that with something else. We're just made so perfect. Our brains are made perfect. Our bodies, our spirits. It's so amazing to me, the whole miracle of all that we are. It's such a celebration to even know all that. Well, having healed and reclaimed my free thought and my conscious awareness and expanded it and exercised it, and, you know, and all that I do with this amazing brain that I've got, I still have retained those abilities because I know they're there, and we all can access those. It's like when we have the telepathic connection with a friend we haven't heard from in a year. We think of them and all of a sudden they call. We go, I was just thinking about you. You know, that's the kind of thing that then you take that and you start exercising it. It's like, okay, that is a reality. Was it, did you telepathically connect? Was it a manifestation? How did you bring that about? How did that happen? Start exercising, playing with it. Think of somebody, see if they called. Start using that, and that will start exercising that aspect of the brain. If you have a pet, use that because they're going to teach us. The dogs have a sense of who's good, who's bad. You know, we have that sense too. You know, we need to start using it. It will help keep us safe. We can use the telepathy with dogs. No connection on the events, and just say, do this, go here, go there, do this, go across the creek, come back, go over here, get your ball, you know, and he would do exactly all that just for fun because he knew that we were communicating, and they get so excited when we can communicate with them. Better yet, when we listen to what they're telling us, like my chow chow tells me all the time, hey, you're working too hard, you're focused, you got to take a break, you know, and I'll be like, okay, just a minute. And he'll sit there for 1 minute and then come back again, you know, and tell me, come on, you got to take a break. And I need to listen to that because he is sensing that that's something I need for balance in my own life. And every time I listen to that and go take that break and go walk outside, breathe in the air, you know, feel the sun on my skin and the breeze in my face. You know, when I take that moment to do that, everything balances and I think clearer and I can get more done. You know, so he knows how to do that and he's gotten real good at it. Just before I came here, I've got wheels on my chair to scoot around my office and do, you know, whatever I need to be doing. And I was doing too much and I told him to wait too many times. So he came up and he pushed my chair back. He got behind it and he scooched it all the way really fast across my office, right up to the threshold where his leash is in the door. I said, okay, I'll do it. You know, he didn't have to go to that if I would have just listened to him and paid attention because he was telling me out of love. He was telling me because he's so, we're so attuned with each other, you know, so we get these wonderful abilities to exercise our own telepathy when we start to listen. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of, it's so rewarding to be able to access those parts of our brain that we have been blessed with and have forgot about now for generations because we're too distracted by the latest technology, harmonics, what we got to go do, working 9 to 5, 5 to 9, you know, whatever. No, we need to take all that back because it's a beautiful balance to our lives that help us think with more clarity, open more neuron pathways so that we can effectively be the change that we need to see in the world. Animals will teach us that.
but I know we have been suppressed about history, lied to. I believe it was maybe something to do with the Rockefellers where they took over our textbooks and just changed everything and made us, learn what we thought was the truth, which we know now is not the truth. But going off the beaten path, because you know so much about everything, do you know anything about Antarctica, and do any of these MK Ultra or any of these other things that they use or cloning, do you know anything about Antarctica? It just fascinates me that they have closed that down to only a certain amount of people and countries. Do you know anything?
Antarctica was not my experience. Everything I speak about is from my own life's experience, and not like from outside information. But the questions you raise on Antarctica, I wonder too. And it's like I really want to know what that's all about. I have a lot of questions that I'm excited to learn more about. And that's the thing. Once we take back our free thought, our free will soul expression, when we align with that divine within and gather the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love, we have so much to explore. I want to know what intelligent life is really out there. I want to know what the truth is about all of that. Anything that's fear-based is a lie. Truth always frees us from fear. So we need to look further. If it's fearful, look further and start expanding your thinking, because we've got a lot of beautiful truth to embrace, a lot to explore in this world. And I'm so excited about where we go from here.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, again, more enlightening information. It's really amazing to have someone here can actually speak firsthand, unfortunately, about all the situations we've all been called conspiracy theorists about for years now. So our next guest is Tika Caldwell, and I know that she's got a little bit of more information for us, and then she's going to be open to questions. Welcome, Tika.
Thank you, Simone, and thank you, Kathy. I live, the way living design technology can be applied. But, who created it? And I put that in the text, was it telepathy? Was it, who thought of who first? But it was this manifestation moment. And, while I was blessed in very many ways in my life, I mentioned before, I also did have what's going to happen. And then it also was highly motivating for me to create harmony in my life and to learn how to repattern. And I was sharing with Kathy yesterday, I had a lot of training in neuro-linguistic programming, but it was with a Russian guy who wrote a series of books called The Art of Becoming Your Best Self. And it was based on the 7 aspects aspects of unconditional love. And safety is the very first thing. In order to build trust, safety is just such a basic human need. And this is the bow that the arrow of living design was birthed from. You know, it was real passion, real purpose, real love of nature, and the need to heal not only myself, but my kids, and my desire to heal for the planet. And so what I like about being able to share with you all again today, and I'm open for questions, is just a little bit more of why the technology that was gifted to me through insight, intuition, support with one of the top electrical engineers in the world, and many other people, but I just thought I would make it super practical to share. Like, what is it? How does it work? And so I just thought I would take here. That is a very simple way to put it, and it feeds the dissonance, and it can perpetuate a sense of unrest or harmony. And so the point of living design is to take these things, our tools, and systematically layer it into the earth, the water, because the natural world also needs support, and place things around a building, a home, or an ecosystem, so that you're taking this dark light that is the light that is the energy that's running the grid and also affecting the grid of the earth, and through these imprinted tools, after talking to Juan last night, with these full spectrum of coherent frequencies, we give this positive information at the frequency level back into the earth, the water, if we wear it near our body, or in this room, like we have harmonizers, ceramic all around the periphery. We have cards that we can put underneath Wi-Fi routers. They don't look like much, but believe me, they are super, super, super powerful to take all the healthy frequencies of nature or the love in your heart, because the way to say it is, this is stabilized love. It is the energy of love. We can make it as scientific as you want it, but at the end of the day, it's love. And so it's taking the field that we live in, and we're putting more love where there's no love, so we can find love, and that we can more easily be love. So that when we are repatterning ourselves, when we are awakening to the truth, we really do have more grounding and more support and more coherence to think our own thoughts and to have the courage that we need. I need the courage to be here sharing this with you. You know, I can already tell this just by holding this, it shifted my field. I can taste it. It makes a sweet taste in my mouth. Those extra sensory things that, you know, I can stick my hand in Clorox and I can taste it. But anyway, so we have a kit, for example, that you put on the meter. And what's in the meter kit? You get 4 small ceramic harmonizers, you get 1 extra small ceramic harmonizer, and you get 4 magnets. And you build your own little like sandwich to plop on your meter. It's just so easy. You don't have to be a scientist. It's plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. I was a Montessori teacher. I'm not a geek. And so we made this really, really simple, because how often do we have mothers who have a young child and the child's room used to be the bedroom, and then the Wi-Fi router is underneath the baby's bed? Okay, I see this over and over and over again. And we have just simple stickers. They're very, very powerful, but you place them on your cell phone and it goes into resonance with your heart and the life supporting energy of nature, so that when you're in a stressful environment, it doesn't have to take it from you to make balance. And then we have another thing like this level 2 kit. And I'm telling you all this so I don't have to repeat it at the booth 50 times. So basically what's in here, 6 octagonal ceramics that you place around the perimeter of your room, just like we did this room, and a small ceramic to put on with the magnet to put on your circuit breaker panel, 2 8-inch guards, one to put under your Wi-Fi router in your refrigerator, because the refrigerator is one of the biggest compression wave generators in the house. And so when we can harmonize that refrigerator, it also makes your food last longer, but it puts harmonic frequencies into your home. And it's easier for you to sync up with your heartbeat. It's easier for you to ground. It's easier for you to think clearly. And the reason why I'm telling you all of this is how we do it is, and then we have other things like we have magnets to put on lights, magnets to put on switches. So we have ways to attach things to technology or the earth energy that is already a generated current. And the reason why I'm telling you that is, we'll go to the next slide, because this is why we want to do this for safe houses, for kids, for the people that we're talking about. It's good for everybody, but I feel, and Awake and Bold asked me to join and collaborate with them. The children who have experienced this trauma, in our opinion, are the people on the planet that need it the most. And so Horseshoe Farm, I'll read the testimonial afterwards, has a beautiful testimonial for the difference what happened in the spa compared to the other buildings that aren't harmonized. And I'll read you the testimonial that Jordan had with his own children in his own home. But the problem of these environmental stressors is invisible. As you can see, the cell phone towers, the Wi-Fi routers, all the different things. And there's so many things underground and from satellite stuff that we don't even see, but it's there. It's a pulsation and it's a wave. Next. And so chaos versus coherence in the human energy system. We have enough chaos. We've talked about it all weekend long. We get to breathe. That's what my son told me yesterday. Mom, don't talk so fast. Just remember to breathe. I get all worked up. So I need this as much as anybody. But what we want to do is, like Kathy says, to find the divine within. These are tools that have helped me and many others, and the horses and the dogs and the animal kingdom that I have worked with, feel much higher levels of coherence. It is a 0 point resonance system. I didn't call it a 0 point energy system, but Dr. Gaetan Chevalier at SciTech Lab did. And basically, I think this is the state where we're all trying to get to, where we're in a state of non-judgment, but we have wisdom and we have discernment, but we can be grounded and we can breathe, because we're not in a state of fear and we're not asleep. Because it's from this place of centeredness that we can access our divine within, and we can align with the divine, and we can hear the whispers of the inspiration that say, yes, no, go here, don't. Because I've learned over the years, when I don't listen to that little whisper, I usually regret it. And this calms the energy around so that we can access more of our gifts. And we have the same thing with the water. We've put the bottles of water, plastic water bottles, on a living design card. And just like many of you may have seen the balance test that I did with Harris' son yesterday, we put that water on the card for maybe 2 minutes, and we could probably try that at the booth. And we can remove the card, hold the glass of water, and it affects the body on at least 8 out of 10 people the same as if you had a ceramic in your hand. So then that begins to go into your system and it begins to regulate and help the cellular communication within us, because the cellular communication of nature, whether it is our trees, water, bees, babies, bodies, is soft. And we get we get disturbed by all the technology. We don't realize how much it affects us, because who has ever heard about the frog, you know, going into a boiling pot and it slowly gets turned up and we don't jump out. And I think that this is indicative of some of the things that we're talking about, but also the quality of the energy field that we are living and working and playing in is another part of this same story. Next. And again, we had Dr. Gaetan Chevalier at SciTech Lab starting to validate this in 2016. We're still working with him. We have other validation that we didn't share yesterday, but we've seen in Kirlian photography, I know it's not considered mainstream science, but we can change the quality of our electrical field. We all have a human aura. And the GDV camera, which SciTech Lab used, which Korotkov invented, is one of the ways that we can test the effect on living systems of greater levels of coherence. So what we're doing when we're harmonizing a home or a building is we're bringing all the harmonic frequencies in an unbroken chain, full spectrum, into our built environment. And Linda Cherry, I can thank, she's the one, she was going to be here for the event. She also was a survivor of a lot of trauma. She is the one that put together this PowerPoint presentation. She was so thankful for having living design in her home. And when we got to know each other, she was excited to say, oh, please let me do this. Why is it important to put in safe houses? And this was her creation. Tangible improvements in daily life, better sleep, meditation, prayer, connection, heart-centeredness, communication with nature. And there we have it. So it's really pretty simple. And I'm here to answer any questions if anybody has any questions. Yes, sir.
Hey, I try to live a pretty natural life. You know, I live in a tree house and I drink spring water and compost the toilet, built my house out of, you know, repurposing materials. And, you know, I built a giant, you know, lake pond in a giant heart shape. I was wondering, could I put that at my spring head and affect all the water? And my other question is, what do you think about the layout of Washington, D.C.?
Woohoo! Well, you know, as I said, my late husband was an architect, and in biogeometry, we really did look at urban planning, and we did take a look at the layout of many of these places that are centers of power. And I'll leave it at that. I won't go down into the rabbit hole, but your point in asking is shape caused waves. And the way that, whether it's a home, a community, or an ecosystem is laid out, has an effect. And the more esoteric understanding that you are aware of, the more impact that you can have. Last night, Juan and I were talking about cows, or maybe, I don't know, he was talking about a bend in a river where the grass grew much better, and the quality of the clay where that bend in the river was extra special, and the life force was extra special. Well, that was something that we learned about, shape-caused waves. And in the center of the center is where you find this full spectrum of healthy magnetic frequencies that is created. And architecture can be used to transmit energy, but the consciousness that is transmitting the energy can influence the quality of it. And so form has function, whether it is in nature for the fractal to create a perfected distribution of electromagnetic energy charge, or whether it is how a 90-degree angle will actually create life force sucking energy, as opposed to a 45-degree angle in the corner. There's quite a lot to that. And so the fact that places were laid out with specific intention is very real. I'll leave it at that because we're going to keep it simple. But I appreciate your question, and it's why architecture and form as function matters. And we have a little bit of that in the back on the right in the display, where we're talking about the shape caused waves and the way that we can design buildings. And it's not a style. It's certain principles with light splines, it's certain principles with curves, it's certain principles with 45-degree angles, and very specific qualities that can be built into an environment that it's like frozen music. And are you creating dissonant music, or are you creating harmonic music? And the way that our buildings now have been constructed have much less coherent energy qualities than they did before. Churches were designed to connect heaven and earth. And now we have flat roofs, we have metal buildings, they're electrified, we have metal beams in the buildings, and we're living in a vertical negative green cage, which cuts us off from source. So, and back to your spring, yes, I truly believe that anytime we're adding more harmonic information, we're supporting the way nature works. Every single time we've seen it improves water. In my well, it changed the pH. I was able to detect a difference before and after. We've had that with other wells, and really, our tools are a gift. They're not really meant as a science experiment. They're meant to say, Ho'oponopono. I love you, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you. I am here to put more blessing where blessing is needed. I am here, it's a gift of love. And the water responds. So the vitality of all of that, and then the way that the water gets from the ground to your house with any type of an energy flow, it will put more spin and more coherence in that, so that as the water's flowing through the pipes, it will stay more alive and support the vitality that that spring has. Any other questions? Yes.
If one wants to harmonize their property, do you come out to the property and suggest where the best placement is for all of the things you have? Or do you just wing it and get whatever?
Thank you very much. That's a great question. I've worked with people all over the world. My team, I want to give a shout out to Kayla and Cindy and Rafe and Tracy, who are here with me. I don't do this alone, and I have quite a few other people. But the beautiful thing is, through the law of resonance, we can have a photographic witness, we can look at satellite imagery, we can look at floor plans, and because we have learned the ability to do resonant dowsing or vibrational attuning to different places, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, I'm pretty good at working with people anywhere and giving a plan and working with you remotely over Zoom, over FaceTime. So it doesn't have to be complicated. We have a very large project going now in Marshall, North Carolina. We're doing a huge retreat center. We're doing, and I had to figure out the proposal and the bid just to get in the door remotely. I had to start somewhere. And so often when people, the kits that we have are designed to be able to do on your own. And if there's a lot of electrical going on in there, if there's something where it's strategically located by a military base or whatever. But by and large, it's extremely simple to make a big difference in neighborhoods. I've worked with people working in neighborhoods and doing environmental, what I call guerrilla harmony, very easily. So it can be as simple or as complex as it needs to be. And we work on a consulting basis so that we can keep the bubble in the middle and figure out what's the best path forward for any given situation. Because there's no living design you can't do wrong. You can only do better, because it's just putting more love where there was less love. Okay, does anybody? Oh, okay.
It's not really a question. I'm retired from the school system, but school systems don't know the meaning of the word retire, so infiltrating into the school systems for parents, for children, for teachers, because they don't have the toolbox to handle the level of what's in the classroom.
I tried to do that
today.
years ago in Asheville. A friend of mine was, but the principal of the school system before she left. And we were trying to write a grant to be at least able to harmonize the computers for the kids, because they're all wired up all the time, and then they're under fluorescent light. You need us. And so really, we're more of I'm more of an educator. I'm not necessarily a marketer. Tika and Living Design Technology ease and centered. The dynamic between them softened, and the overall energy in the house felt more cohesive and supportive. It wasn't subtle. There was a clear difference in the atmosphere. The harmony could genuinely be felt. When we incorporated the technology into the stable spa, it elevated the entire experience. It seemed to draw for the care and intention behind this work. The impact has been both immediate and enduring. And I will say that as a client, we did Jordan's home, but I gifted them to create a place here for Living Design to have an educational foundation. And this is the first event that happened out of there. So thank you very much.
Just wonderful speakers throughout the time that we've been doing this. Somehow today feels like magic. I mean, didn't know. And again, I would say that it only takes one person sitting in the seats, right? Sunday people are at church or whatever. But the information shared today was textbook for me. And in all of the town halls that we've done, the speeches from, we still have Mr. O'Savin and we have Simone Anderson speaking. And so anyway, just wanted to thank them. And I want to thank our sponsors. Our sponsors are Welcome Wellness. There you go. Bart Emerson Lee, amazing guy. Tina Franklin from Skin Ovation and Horseshoe Farm. Again, thank you for this amazing space, this amazing opportunity, and for Tika to have harmonized this space, to have this assembly to talk about these things in a way. It's like this stuff that we're doing here today, so powerful. You're going to see it everywhere because we're going to have podcasters who are going to take snippets from everybody's conversation and get it everywhere, because we're going to expand what we're doing and not just have town halls, but we're going to do situational awareness. We're going to do martial arts. We're going to harmonize safe spaces. We're going to do whatever he's been telling us to do, and we're going to do it right now. So thank you. And I want to bring up Simone Anderson, who is our next brilliant speaker. I met her at the Church of Glad Tidings, and how lucky am I to have met her. So here we go.
Thank you for that warm introduction. First of all, today, my concept today is going to be the Justinian deception, Admiralty law, and the Whore of Babylon. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, we've had so much conversation today about the Jesuits and yesterday, the Vatican, and what we call human trafficking today. But human trafficking is just the politically correct word for modern day slavery. And so about 10 days ago, I was in Puerto Vallarta during the cartel wars. And I'd been in civil unrest in other countries, Russia, Venezuela, Greece, Turkey. I'd been in certain things in the past. But what's extremely strange about the Mexican situation is I don't think a lot of people really understand exactly what was going on in Jalisco, Mexico, and why this certain cartel leader was so important to the United States government. Now, I'm not sure how many people watch the news, but a few years ago, or about a year almost exactly to the date, right, about 2 hours from Puerto Vallarta near Guadalajara, they found some local people were looking for missing children and missing relatives. They found crematoriums, they found large gas chambers, and they found large stacks of bones and clothing and shoes. So the Aztecs ruled Mexico for many years, particularly the Puerto Vallarta area. The main beach in Puerto Vallarta is known as Death Beach, because there were hundreds of thousands of child sacrifices by the Aztecs done there. So this is the hub in that certain area of Mexico for human trafficking. And I think that's why it was so important. The heroin business started in Mexico by the Spanish Viceroy, which are kind of the lower class of the Spanish Admiralty. And they actually, the banks were started with the heroin trade money. So I just thought connecting the Jesuits and what's going on in Mexico and the human trafficking chains kind of puts a perspective on what was really happening there. So it was very strange because the police never came. The military wasn't out for 8 hours. There were no sirens going off, and we literally had cars blowing up within 1,000 feet of our house. So the argument was between the cartels and the government. So I think we need to keep a close eye on that and find out what's really going on in Mexico, because it's much bigger than a lot of people think. Now, I was just going to ask in the audience, is there anyone in this audience that's aware of the Justinian deception or Admiralty law? There we have. Did you want to kind of give your quick opinion, or waiting for me to I just wanted to know how many people were familiar with the topic, because okay. Okay. Well, sometimes it's a new construct to a lot of people, but this is literally the slave system that's controlling our world. And not only people that are being human trafficked are in the human slave system, we are all in it. And so I'm going to kind of read from my speaker notes because it's a really complex topic and I want to get it clear to you in 20 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and read most of my speech and then we'll answer some questions after. A lot of people, it takes them a bit of time to digest what I say, and frequently after I do this talk, I get a blank stare in the beginning, and then about a week later, I'll start getting all these emails, and I'll get phone calls for people who know me personally, and they have a lot of questions because they've actually been able to verify what I'm talking about. So as we listen to different speakers and perspectives on the state of our nation and explore the structures that rule our lives, we often hear the expression "they." And when people are discussing the invisible hands of power that seem to operate to benefit the world's powerful political, religious, educational, medical, corporate, and military industrial complexes that control our planet. Got my... Okay. So who are these people and who do they represent? Why do they have so much power over our daily lives? And how long has society been in the current system that we live in, often referred to as the matrix that controls the realm that we exist in? Does the system represent man's natural state, or are we suspended in an artificial construct? We are dead cargo lost at sea on a ship, where our birth certificates are monetary instruments pledged to a foreign power who controls the reality of the world's population. Are we truly free in the West, or have our lives been pledged in an ancient Babylonian Masonic Antichrist system that rules us and deprives us of God's given rights? A system that separates us from God and enslaves us under debt and taxation to maintain control of the world's assets and the masses. So before I get started, I just want to know that this is based on historical documents that a lot of you can look into for yourself. And my intention isn't to hurt anyone's feelings because some people belong to the certain faith. But again, we're talking about people in the higher levels of this system, not the everyday people. So we often hear that it's end times. And what does Revelation say about end times and the Whore of Babylon? So slide 3, please. Mystery Babylon, I think you and I had discussed this, is often portrayed as a woman, but it actually represents a corrupt world system that opposes God. And this is actually a colorized illustration of Martin Luther's 1535 Bible, where he puts up who is the Whore of Babylon. So the Whore of Babylon isn't a specific person, it's a political structure. She's the mother of harlots and has created many false religions. She's dressed in red and purple and is adorned with jewels representing the world's wealth and corruption. She's holding a cup of her abominations, the filth of her adulteries, and drunk with the blood of the saints, meaning the persecution of God's people. Slide 4. The horse sits on a scarlet beast and has 7 heads and 10 horns, representing the blasphemous, powerful political system that gave her her power. But eventually the beast devours the whore and destroys her. Then the beast aligns with the 7 horns for the final battle with Christ. The 7 horns are a parody of Christ's power, and they represent the blasphemous 7 mountains and 7 kings. And now the Vatican rests on the 7 mountains. I believe the 7 kings refer to the monarchies of Europe. The 10 horns represent the kingdoms. So the beast or the so how did the beast, or what we often call the dragon, give this power to the whore? And slide 5. And that's what we know as the Justinian deception. Some people in the audience may be familiar with the Byzantine Emperor Justinian the Great. He lived from 527 to 565 AD, and he conspired with the military-industrial complex to illegally claim power over the Western Roman Empire around 538. This illegal transfer of power implemented Roman law and gave the Pope control of the Christian religion under the Edict of Justinian. And you can go look up the Edict of Justinian if you want to. There's quite a bit of information. The administration action directly relates to how the world continues to operate today, often referred to as the beast system. So slide 6. This illegal transfer of power combined with ancient pagan Roman church that eventually became the Holy Roman Empire. They continued to represent the cults of Isis, Horus, and Set. And I think yesterday, Wanda of Christ, the Roman Empire agents had to get these people back into their system. Justinian was a soldier who all of a sudden declared himself to be a theologian. Lawyers of the Roman Empire, and that literally is where that term came from. The lawyers serve the admiralty system. They don't serve their clients. And whether they know that or not, I don't know. I know a lot of lawyers. They don't know this information. Under debt slavery. And to fund their banking and commerce wars that we all exist in. Because we all exist in what they call banking and commerce wars, and our contracts are caught up in that system. And I'll get into that a little further along. So if you look at history, every fiat money system crashes about every 80 years. And right now, we're in that 80th year. And there's much conversation about the financial system, how it's collapsing. Are we going to a digital currency? Are we going to a gold-backed currency? And this is what's going on. A lot of the people that are in power, they may be fighting back against it, but the people who control the world are aware of this system, and they're using the same tactic as they've always used to control society through debt and through slavery. The City of London Bank that controls all own all of our federal reserves. Our country also banking system went bankrupt, and you can go to so slide 8. When the bankrupt US government needed funds, they went back to the City of London. So after the crash of 1929, our country was bankrupt. We had 3 bankrupts in the contract we did with the King of England back during the time of independence in the Bill of Rights, because he controlled the waterways. He was the ruler of the earth at that time and used to have his permission to travel across the seas. And all of our ships were being hijacked because we were no longer in that banking and commerce system controlled by the British monarchy. So in the contract we did to allow international trade, we had 3 bankruptcies. And so the first one was after the Civil War. The second one was this one and the crash of 29. And our country had nothing left to pledge because they had spent the last 30 years robbing us blind and implementing the Federal Reserve System in 1914. So what did you think they did? All they had was us, the people. So they pledged our birth certificates into the ancient Roman Babylonian system, and we became the collateral for our country's debt. And this is how the Romans occupied foreign lands for 1,000 years. And again, it's stems from the ancient Babylonian system. So they had, the European powers had finally brought us back into the system that all of our ancestors left Europe to get away from. And we still exist in that system today. So I'm going to explain Admiralty law a little bit, but this is your birth certificate. And I suggest anybody go home and look at their birth certificate. And if you look with a magnifying glass, just this looks like a stock certificate. Remember, we're all old enough to remember what a stock certificate looked like. Everything's digital now, but you can see right there, this is Michelle, the girl who was on the show yesterday. This is her birth certificate. If you listen to Michelle Melendez. And she actually wrote an excellent book. And you can find out a lot of this information. I'm talking to you, the book's for sale in the back room. And you can see right there that this is a banknote. You are a banknote. Midwest Banknote Company. So we all exist in the system. So not only is the people who are forcibly enslaved under human trafficking, but we all are collateral for our government. When, for instance, if you're born to poor parents and you're a single mother, you're a junk bond. And if you ever got your birth certificate back, it would have a bunch of stamps. I don't know if people used to get a stock certificate back. You could see where your stock had been traded in every country, and that's what your birth certificate would look like. If you're born to two lawyers or two wealthy people, you're an A bond. Because they know that throughout your life, you're most likely going to generate more money than the junk bond people. And I personally believe that's why they've moved so many people out of poor countries. Because they have a younger population and they would like to capture their birth certificates into our tax system because they're not generating any revenue down living in the or something. So they're actually costing the system money in their system anyway. I'm not saying that is how I feel. The system is often referred to as Admiralty Law or the birth certificate system. This is communism. So let's not get that confused. The root of communism is the Roman Catholic Church. It's construct, and it's the one who's funded all the wars, that's murdered hundreds of millions of people in the last 100 years. And again, I went to Catholic school. I took my grandmother, although I'm not Catholic myself, I took my grandmother every Sunday until she died to church. So this is not about the individual people who have a faith in God. So I just wanted to make that clear. Since 1871, when the US Constitution was replaced by a corporate document, we've not had a legitimate president of the United States. This same structure put in a legal during the Civil War. They put in a illegal constitution into the United States, and that's what we've been operating under since that time, and that's what's allowed this system to succeed. So a lot of people call President Trump the 45th president, but if you understand admiralty law and the fact that this system went bankrupt, a few years ago. He's the 19th president of the United States, because this was an illegal contract, and we've been operated and been ruled over by criminals, pirates. Basically, that's why Hollywood is so fixated with pirates, because they literally are. This group of foreign hostile invaders took hold of our nation after the Civil War. The takeover continued into the 1930s and the nation's second bankruptcy. The third and final bankruptcy of the United States occurred in 1999. And that's why, and we had a 60-day period where the United States was what they call open for capture. Our contract with the British Crown had expired. Our financial system had collapsed, if anybody remembers the big tech bubble and the collapse there. And that's the reason George Bush, or Rockefeller, was put into office, because he was, not George Bush, Clinton, because he was a Rhodes Scholar. And Cecil Rhodes captured Africa under this same system to steal all their assets and capture the people into the slave system. And so he left his fortune for people to train future leaders to bring the world back into the British monarchy system, which is really the Vatican system. The actual monarchs of Europe lost their power to the Pope, starting with an agreement signed at the Concordance of Worms in Germany in 1122. They reneged on that by doing the Magna Carta, and because the King of England was the ruler of all the European monarchies, they all lost their power and they subjugated at that time to the Pope. And the agents of the Pope, from Oliver Cromwell on, have actually destroyed the actual bloodlines of the original monarchies and replaced it with the Rockefeller, Rothschild bloodlines, or what we call the 12 bloodlines. The agents of this banking system are battling it out right in front of us for control of the new financial system. That's why we see all the chaos. And they're struggling to implement the new track and trace digital currency and start wars to call the population. Because whenever they get caught or people find out about this, they start a war. They send our young people off, who would be the ones who fight back. They rob the rest of us. They start taking 90% of our income. A lot of people, after World War II, the tax rate was 90%. So, and it allows them to take more and more control. So in the 1930s, the bankers formed 4 international communal corporations, hence the word communism. Being international means that you have no land. They derive their power from other corporations that are exerting illegal power over the people they do have the rights to enforce. In the systems, we're on a fictitious ship where we are under the law of the sea and not the law of the land, and we're subject to the rules of the captain. We have no rights in this system. In fact, we are considered dead cargo. The term human itself means monster. Or dead cargo. Our parents are tricked into signing paperwork in the hospital that sells our birth certificate to the Federal Reserve System. So a hospital is a foreign hostile port, just like the courtrooms are foreign hostile ports. Children are considered abandoned in the maternity ward until they are admitted into the Babylonian Masonic system and your birth certificate is sold to the financial system. And your real birth certificate is at the Vatican Bank in Switzerland as collateral for all the money our government is spending. The value of each birth certificate is derived from the future tax revenue that they'll generate for the Vatican. The system claims the child in the womb because the womb is full of water, so they're claiming us under Admiralty law. And they exercise their Admiralty law claim via the sewer systems in the United States. So they claim power of us connected through the sewer systems from birth in our mother's womb and on land through those systems. The word matrix literally means womb. A lot of people think it's a movie, but the Matrix movie is explaining this. And if you understand Morpheus and the people So I'm just going to skip ahead to the end times prophecy. I realize that this has been a complex topic and it challenges much of what most of us have been taught. Every major religion in the world right now is teaching that we're in apocalyptic times, meaning, and what you have to understand, the word apocalypse literally means the unveiling. The veil will be lifted and we'll see the world as it truly is. It has nothing to do with Mel Gibson's movie, Apocalypto. Although that was a quite entertaining film. So that's really what when they're preaching apocalyptus, when Christ said to Nicodemus in John chapter 8, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. He was showing us the way to eternal life. Because even people in this time were dead cargo, subhuman monsters, and human slave tax fraud of the Roman Empire. Yeshua says, verily, truly, I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God unless you're born of the water and of the Spirit. And that's what it means to be born again. Christ was telling people how to get out of the tax slave system, again, because the whore of Babylon separates God from his people. So I'm just trying to tie that together because this gets a little confusing. Christ also instructs his followers to read the signs. S is for snake, I is for the person, and the G is for government, and N represents the mountains and the sea. In short, the sign or structure all original documents So we can choose to take the blue pill, or we can remain compliant, or we can take the red pill and see the world. Today, our society is ruled under Roman law, and that means if we do not push back, we consent. And that's what's been going on in society while we were all watching football games and busy with our lives, having to work 2 jobs. We no longer I started doing a podcast where I basically just read my writing and I put slides to them. So my podcast is called Lost in Translation. It's on YouTube. If you want, you have to put in Lost in Translation, Justinian. Because they'll send you the movie with Scarlett Johansson. And so personally studied the Ethiopian Bible, which has the closest text. Abraham had 3 3 wives. We never hear about his Ethiopian wife. After Sarah died, he had children with her. They went back to Ethiopia. Some of the people with the strongest DNA to this day are from West Africa. According to DNA, when they took the slaves, they knew exactly who they were taking. They were the descendants of Abraham through his Ethiopian lines. And they kept the original text. They've never been invaded. We were much more advanced civilization in the past. They literally carved these massive cathedrals, and they specifically stuck to the translations. And so if you want to learn about the true teachings of Christ, I suggest you go to the Ethiopian Bible, because many of the versions that we read today have been dramatically altered to fit the current political system. And it doesn't mean that God's word still hasn't shown through in those words, because God is God, and he will win. And so, but if you truly want to study the text, it's very interesting and very challenging. And it's going to open you up to a whole different understanding of Christ's message.
Okay, Simone.
Yeah.
Is this on? Oh yeah, there we go.
We got one.
So I really appreciate Appreciate what you're doing and everything you have to say. And we're making a little bit of a change, you guys, and what's going on here. So maybe take one more question. Then we're going to have our two guys come up, and anybody that wants to talk to Juan, we're going to let our sound guy go because he thought he was only going to be here for a certain amount of time, and so then he can take off. But anybody that wants to it's okay with this because I just talked with him. Anybody that really wants to have a conversation with him can go in the back room, the green, what we're calling the green room. And instead of him coming up here, he just love to talk with you guys back there. And he's got a time frame as well. So one more question maybe for Simone, and then we'll bring the guys up. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm open if anybody.
So, so everybody, I just want to let you know that fortunately, Juan, the event is about to end, so Juan's going to speak. We're going to do it privately and try to put it up. So, yeah, I know, Justin, I know it's, and sorry about that. Can you guys, Justin, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Justin? I'm ready to. Okay. So I just want to let you guys know that, yeah, I apologize. We tried to fix it. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Let's see. So, unfortunately, Juan's probably going to be doing it in the back room. You know, obviously my streams had a problem. Thank God Tom's stream has been good. The whole weekend we've been trying to get it live here as best we could. We've had some situations, but I think Tom and the other guy did fantastic on the Rumble stream, and it's been an amazing event. But Juan is still here. We're going to try to possibly, he's going to go in the back room. Okay. Oh, you can't hear me. Justin, can you hear me now? No, you can't hear me. You can't hear me. No. Hello. Wow, my voice. You can hear me now? You can. Okay. So Juan's going to do a little something out back. We're going to try to capture it on YouTube the best we can. So hang tight. It's not going to be on this main channel or Tom's. I don't think so, but maybe it will be. I'll let you guys know. Juan's going to do question and answer. He's gonna do, Tom's channel is, Chris, the same as yesterday. It's on Rumble. It's, hold on. I just want to get you guys to want stuff. He's going to talk about updated stuff. Hold on one sec. Tom's channel, Chris, if you could put it up, Chris. Hold on one sec. Patriots View on Rumble. Okay, Patriots. Some of you already have it. Tom, are you going to do it on your channel? Oh no.
We gotta figure this out because you can't have two people, two rooms.
No, I'm just asking. Are you going to do it on your? Oh, Juan's going to come out here.
Trying to do that because everybody's over.
But it's going to go on your Patriots View on Rumble. So for any Gideon's people, I'm going to be live on our Zoom room tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll be live on the Zoom room doing our regular Sunday night study at 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you guys could pass the word around for those that are interested, just go to Tom's channel at Patriot View, and we're going to have another clip of Juan, but we're trying to put it together now. So there's a couple things going on because the event was supposed to end at 2:00, but Juan's going to do overtime, and we're going to try to capture it for you guys. We're doing this because I know there's some of you guys that wanted to hear Juan today. So we're hopefully going to have Juan live for you guys shortly. So I'm going to close out of this and go to Tom's Patriot View, and we're going to capture Juan there, okay? So thank you for those that were following us. I apologize for the, we're going to have to fix the computer again. But anyways, the in and out, I know Tom's stream was great. So anyways, thank you, everybody. It's been an amazing weekend, you know, with some amazing warriors. And we've had a blast on our end. And we tried to bring you here by, you know, taping it as often as we could and like that. Unfortunately, technical difficulty, and it's unacceptable. This technical thing is unacceptable. But I promise you we'll fix it. And, you know, Chris knows we've been struggling with this for years, but so grateful that Tom and the other guy had such a beautiful stream on Patriot View the whole weekend. And I sent that out to a few of you. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for this weekend. We thank you for all those that are listening. I pray your protection on them. We have prayers. We have Jules. We have Tina Peters. We have so many, Kellyanne and all the people, Catherine and Jim Field and so many others that we're praying for. Lord, we thank you that you hear us. We thank you that you're answering prayers. We thank you for the faithful audiences that have come over the years. We thank you for the warriors that we've brought together at this critical time. I pray for each and every person listening and all their families represented here. We thank you, Lord, that you're the answer. The answer is Jesus Christ and him crucified. And once we put faith in him, we get power daily, we get peace daily, we get victory daily. Hallelujah, through the power and office of the Holy Spirit. So thank you for the warriors that you brought together here. We thank you for these people that put on an amazing weekend for all of us all. We thank you for Hara and Melissa and Kathy and Brian and all the amazing people at Awaken Bold. So we've had a fantastic weekend. Looking forward to sharing this stuff with you guys over the week. But Lord, bless these amazing warriors that you brought together at this critical time. Thank you for your presence here tonight. Thank you for your presence in our life. Thank you for the presence in our brothers and sisters' lives around the world, trying to build his eternal kingdom and make America God's again. And then be our brothers and sisters, brother around the world, not our brother's keeper. Thank you for your presence here. Thank you for the faithful warriors here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Over and out, over and out, over and out. We'll see you guys tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time for the Gideon's Warriors. We're gonna have a great 2 hours tonight together, 8 to 10 Eastern time. And then we'll see you guys tomorrow night when I get back. I'm flying in tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. We'll be back tomorrow night, regular schedule. I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And God bless. Love, love, love.